For 3 agonizing hours, I paced the sterile corridor outside the hospital's emergency room. The air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and unspoken fear. Finally, the light above the door went out, and a doctor emerged, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion and his face a mask of grim news. "We've done everything in our power," he said, his voice low and heavy. "All 3 patients are suffering from a rare and incredibly complex condition. You need to find their attending physician, Dr. Claire Chin, to perform the surgery. Without her, they won't make it through the night." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I leaned against the wall to steady myself, a cold dread washing over me. "My wife, Claire, she's their doctor. Isn't she here?" "We can't reach her," the doctor admitted, his eyes full of pity. "She was supposed to be on call tonight, handling emergencies. It's as if she's vanished." My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone, my thumb nearly missing the screen as I tried to dial her number. I called again and again, more than a dozen times, but each call was met with the same cold, indifferent ringing tone that eventually timed out. Frustrated, I opened my messaging app to send her a frantic text, only to see that she had just posted on her social media feed 10 minutes ago. The picture showed her beaming, her face a picture of serene happiness. She was nestled closely against her friend Julian, a man she claimed was battling severe depression. They looked as intimate and carefree as a celestial couple in a fairy tale. The caption read, "I just want you to know how precious life is and how beautiful the world can be." Beneath the post, Julian had already commented with a string of heart and hug emojis. My knuckles turned white as I gripped my phone, a surge of rage so intense that I slammed my fist against the wall. How could this be happening? Her family was dying, and she was off on some scenic retreat, ignoring her phone while comforting a friend? I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number for Julian and dialed it without a second thought. This time, the call connected almost instantly. Julian's smooth voice came through the receiver. "Hello, who is this?" "Who do you think it is?" I snapped, dispensing with any pleasantries. "I'm Leo, Claire's husband. My wife is with you, isn't she? Put her on the phone. Now." There was a slight pause. "Claire's in the shower at the moment," Julian said calmly. "If you have a message, I can pass it along for you." A fire ignited in my chest. Just as I was about to unleash a torrent of angry words, I heard the sound of a door opening in the background, followed by the soft padding of wet footsteps on the floor. Then I heard my wife's voice, a gentle, almost musical question. "Who's calling so late, honey?" "Claire," I shouted into the phone, my voice raw with desperation. "It's your brother, Kevin. He was in a car accident. His entire family is in the hospital. You have to get back here now. Stop wasting time with Julian." There was a rustle as Claire snatched the phone. When she spoke, her tone had transformed into something cold and sharp. Her voice trembled with anger. "How did you get my colleague's number? What do you think you're doing calling him? I'm warning you, Leo, Julian's depression is already at a critical stage. If you do anything to make it worse, I'll never forgive you." "Did you hear me?" I pleaded. "I said your brother is dying. Are you coming back to save him or not?" A dismissive, cold laugh echoed from her end of the line. She didn't believe a word I was saying. "Enough, Leo. I know you have issues with Julian, but you don't have to stoop to making up lies like this to force me home. You know how much I hate being lied to. Julian is on the verge of a breakdown," she continued, her voice unwavering. "I'm here to help him fulfill his last wishes. I don't have time to waste on your games. Don't call again." With that, she hung up. When I tried to call back, I discovered she had blocked my number. Suddenly, a shrill, incessant beeping pierced the hallway's quiet. The heart monitor in the emergency room was sounding an alarm. A doctor rushed back inside, checked on the patients, and then came out to face me, his expression graver than before. He told me they might not even survive the next hour. Just then, my brother-in-law, Kevin, stirred, his eyes fluttering open. He grabbed my hand with a surprising strength, his voice a ragged whisper. "Leo, find my sister. Get her to come. She can save us. She has to." I fought back tears and nodded, my throat tight. "I will, Kevin. I'm going right now. Just hold on. You have to hold on until I get back." Claire and I had grown up together, and Kevin had always been like a younger brother to me. I couldn't bear the thought of watching him die. I remembered the 2 plane tickets in Claire's social media post. The flight was scheduled to depart in an hour. Without another thought, I sprinted out of the hospital and drove recklessly to the airport. I arrived at the main hall, breathless and scanning the crowds with frantic eyes. Then I saw them. Standing in line at the self-service ticketing kiosk were Claire and Julian. I ran towards them, but stopped short at what I saw. Claire was handing Julian a steaming hot roasted sweet potato. "I bought this for you," she said softly. "Eat something to tide you over." Julian shook his head, but Claire patiently peeled away the skin, piece by piece, before offering it to him again, her eyes filled with a tenderness I hadn't seen in years. "How about now?" she whispered. A bitter pang of jealousy shot through me. I had always been the one to take care of her so meticulously. Because she was a surgeon, her hands had to be protected, so I was always the one to peel difficult foods and hand them to her. But if I ever asked her to do something as simple as grab a package for me, she would retort with annoyance, "How can my hands touch something so dirty?" I had always assumed it was just her personality. I never imagined she was saving all her patience and gentleness for someone else. Pushing down the storm of emotions for the sake of Kevin, who was lying in a hospital bed waiting for his sister, I walked straight up to Claire and grabbed her arm. "Claire, come back to the hospital with me now. You have to operate on your brother." The moment she saw me, her face contorted in disgust as she violently shook my hand off. "Have you had enough? I'm just traveling with a friend, and you have the nerve to follow us all the way here? Julian and I are not what you think." Her loud voice drew the attention of people around us. Though her accusation stung, I forced myself to remain calm and explain. "Your brother is really in trouble. A car crash caused internal ruptures and massive bleeding. He's on the verge of death. The doctors at the hospital don't dare to operate. You're the only one who knows his medical history. Are you really going to stand by and watch him die? If you don't believe me, call the hospital yourself." Claire scoffed and turned her back on me, walking to the kiosk to leisurely retrieve her tickets. "You think I'd fall for that? Don't think I don't know how close you are with my colleagues. For all I know, you're all in on this together, trying to trick me. Why would I joke about something like this? He's your brother, and he's like a brother to me, too. We watched him grow up." My voice rose in desperation. "And now, because of some colleague, you're leaving him to die in a hospital. You will regret this for the rest of your life." My words seemed to make her hesitate for a fraction of a second, but the disbelief remained etched on her face. "Don't be ridiculous. Why would my brother be in a car crash in the middle of the night? They know their health conditions. They would never go out so late. It's because you asked him to buy you those sweet cakes. He wanted to bring them to you while they were still fresh, so he rushed over right after they were made." Hearing this, a cold smirk finally appeared on Claire's face. "What are you talking about? I never asked my brother to buy anything like that. I knew you were lying. You can't even come up with a believable excuse. Do you think I'm a child?" I looked at her, confused. "That's impossible. Kevin sent me a message right before he left, saying he was bringing you sweet cakes. Half an hour later, the accident happened." It was then that Julian spoke up. "I used your phone to send that message," he said quietly. "I was feeling nostalgic for the sweet cakes you used to bring me from your hometown, so I asked Kevin to get some. But I never got a reply from him," he continued. "I figured he wouldn't come out so late at night." He turned to Claire. "Claire, if you're worried, you should go back. I can go on my own. I'll find the most beautiful place and stay there forever." The boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. Julian picked up his luggage and walked towards the gate without a backward glance. His last words terrified Claire. Fearing he would end his life, she scrambled after him, throwing her arms around him. "How could you leave me? I'm coming with you." Wiping tears from her eyes, she cried, "Let's forget everyone else. Let's just leave this place." Before she disappeared through the gate, she shot me one last, venomous glare, as if blaming me for continuing to deceive her even at this final moment. They walked away, hand in hand, never looking back. I tried desperately to call out to her, to stop her, but the security guard at the gate blocked my path, telling me I couldn't enter without a ticket. Just then, my phone rang. I answered it to the sound of the worst news imaginable. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Leo," the doctor's tired voice said. "Your family members passed away. They missed the critical window for rescue." I handled the funeral arrangements for Kevin's family. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were inconsolable, their cries echoing in the empty hall. Between sobs, they relentlessly dialed Claire's number, trying to reach the daughter, who had vanished. But it was as if she had evaporated from the face of the earth, deaf to their calls. In a fit of grief and rage, my father-in-law smashed his phone to pieces, screaming that Claire was a disgrace to the family. Meanwhile, Claire's social media was alive and well. She posted daily photos of her travels with Julian, accompanied by overly sentimental captions. The sight of it made me sick to my stomach. I silently turned off my phone screen. I had hoped that 3 years of marriage might have warmed her heart, but she remained as cold and selfish as ever. I had thought that even though she once loved Julian, her choice to marry me meant that chapter was closed. Now it seemed that old flame had been rekindled at the most tragic of times. If that was the case, perhaps it was time for me to let go. I rented a new apartment, planning to move out and file for divorce as soon as Claire returned. The day I went back to our home to pick up my last box of belongings, I opened the door to find Claire and Julian returning, laughing and talking together. They stopped when they saw me, standing close together, looking for all the world like the true masters of the house. Julian saw me and stood up, offering a clumsy explanation. "Leo, I might need to stay here for a few days. I'm really sorry about this." "I didn't want to be a bother," he added, "but Claire is so worried about me. She insists on taking care of me. I'll leave as soon as I feel a bit better." I ignored him and walked past, and he was left standing there awkwardly. This enraged Claire. She slammed her hand on the table, her face hardening. "Leo, what is that attitude? Julian is talking to you politely, and you act like this? I'm warning you. While he's staying here, you will not cause him any trouble. Behave yourself, and I might be willing to forgive you for that stunt you pulled." She paused, then asked, "By the way, where's my brother? I can't seem to reach him." A cold laugh escaped my lips. "You have the audacity to ask about your brother? You have no right. He and his family are dead because of you." Claire froze, her face turning pale. She pointed a trembling finger at me. "Leo, what are you saying? How dare you say my brother is dead? Don't you know how much I'm already suffering over his family's situation, and you're here fanning the flames?" She was shaking with rage, her eyes red as if they might bleed, feigning a deep concern for her brother. I just wanted to laugh. I took out my phone and held it in front of her. "I have their memorial portraits right here. Do you want to see?" On the screen was a black and white family photo. It was taken just before Kevin's family came to visit his sister, now a grim centerpiece for their funeral. Claire snatched the phone and hurled it to the ground. "Leo, you are cruel. I see what this is. You want a divorce, don't you? You're just unhappy that I'm with Julian, so you keep pulling these little stunts to get my attention. But this time, you've gone too far." I picked up my shattered phone and said calmly, "I'm not unhappy. I agree to the divorce. I wish you two a lifetime of happiness." I ignored her and went to the bedroom to pack the rest of my things. Claire's eyes widened in disbelief. "Leo," she screamed, "if you dare walk out that door today, don't ever come back." I just smiled. "I'll mail you the divorce papers. Don't forget to sign." Just as she was about to rush over and stop me, Julian suddenly started to sob quietly. "I'm sorry, Claire. It's all my fault. I'm the one who ruined your marriage. I'll leave right now. I should just go back to my own place." Hearing this, Claire immediately turned back to comfort him, pulling him into a heart-wrenching embrace. "Don't you dare leave. I will never give up on you." Before I left, I told Claire that her brother and his family were laid to rest on a small hill overlooking the town. If she ever found the time, she might want to pay her respects. She never went. She didn't give it another thought. She was too busy at the hospital, attending to Julian. After his tearful apology at our home, Julian's condition had worsened. He had even staged a suicide attempt and was subsequently hospitalized. Claire stayed by his bedside for 3 days and nights, oblivious to everything else. Meanwhile, my in-laws, whose health was already fragile, deteriorated rapidly after hearing the news about their son. I accompanied them to the hospital for a checkup, where we unexpectedly ran into Claire. I saw her carefully supporting Julian by the arm as he walked, a worried frown on her face. "I haven't been able to reach Kevin for days," she said to him. "Do you think he might actually be in some kind of trouble? He's not even answering Mom and Dad's calls." Julian squeezed her hand reassuringly. "If something were truly wrong, don't you think you would know? You're the most caring sister anyone could ask for. I've seen how much you've done for them over the years." "Maybe," he mused, "Leo said something to them in anger that caused a misunderstanding." Claire's expression darkened. "That's possible," she said coldly. "I've known Leo for so long, and my parents practically treat him like their own son. They believe every word he says." As she turned to lead Julian back to his room, she saw me. She started, then her eyes flashed with annoyance. "What are you doing here? Again? Why do I run into you everywhere? Wasn't it enough that you landed Julian in the hospital? What are you trying to pull this time?" I didn't argue. I simply handed her a file folder. "I heard you didn't sign the papers that were mailed to the house. Good thing I brought a second copy. You can sign it now." She eyed me suspiciously, then ripped open the folder. When she confirmed they were indeed divorce papers, her fingers tightened, nearly crushing the pages. She threw the folder back at me, its contents scattering across the floor. I'm so busy taking care of Julian that I barely have time to eat. And you're here causing trouble, she seethed. I'll get to the divorce when I have time. You don't need to rush me. She was breathing heavily, her chest heaving as she glared at me as if I were the one who had betrayed her. I found it laughable. How could she be so blind to her own actions? I picked up the papers and offered them to her again. It only takes a moment to sign. Let's finish this today, and you'll never have to worry about me bothering you again. She snatched the agreement and tore it to shreds. Why are you in such a hurry? She spat, her teeth clenched. Is it because you're cheating on me? Who are you here with today? I was about to say I was with her parents, but seeing their fragile state, I didn't want to risk upsetting them further, so I remained silent. But then Claire looked past me, and her eyes lit up. She rushed over to them. Like a little girl, she cooed. Dad, Mom, what are you doing here? I've missed you so much. Her mother, usually so gentle, pushed her away. Her father, who had always doted on her, wouldn't even look at her. Undeterred, Claire hugged them again. Are you angry with me? I didn't mean to ignore you. I just had something very important to take care of. Did Leo say something bad about me? She pressed on. You have no idea how awful he's been. He tried to trick me into thinking my brother was dead, telling me to rush back to the hospital to save him. As if I'd fall for such a ridiculous lie. At the mention of her son, my mother-in-law finally snapped. She raised her hand and delivered a sharp, ringing slap across Claire's face. How dare you speak of your brother? Your brother and his entire family are gone. They died on the very night you made them deliver those sweet cakes, the very night you refused to come home and perform their surgery. Claire froze, stunned, as if the words themselves were a physical blow. A full minute passed before she managed to ask, her voice barely a whisper, They're really gone? So suddenly, her mother screamed, her voice cracking with grief. What do you mean, suddenly? You've been a doctor for years. Have you never seen a patient die unexpectedly? Your brother was in a critical car accident. Leo begged you repeatedly to come back and save him, and you ignored him. Claire stared at her parents in disbelief. Then her gaze shifted to me, searching for confirmation. Seeing the three of us glaring at her with matching expressions of disgust, she suddenly burst into laughter, covering her face with her hands. You're all in on this together, aren't you? You're trying to trick me. It was Leo, wasn't it? He did something to my brother, and you're all covering for him, pinning the blame on me, she shrieked. It's always been this way. You always valued him more than me, listened to him, agreed with him, and now you're defending him. Her father couldn't take any more. He slammed his cane on the floor. Stop your nonsense. We love Leo, but we would never defend him at the cost of our conscience. The only one trying to shift blame here is you. You knew your brother's health was poor, yet you made him go out for pastries in the middle of the night. When he was lying in the hospital after a crash, you were off on a trip with your so-called colleague and wouldn't come back. Did you forget they had a rare condition that no one else dared to operate on? My mother-in-law shook her head, tears streaming down her face. We spoiled you too much. Claire stood there, stunned, for a long moment. Then she turned and took Julian's arm again. Julian, you're not well. You shouldn't be standing out here for so long. Let me take you back to your room. Her father's eyes blazed. So that boy is your colleague? That homewrecker? He corrupted our daughter and killed our son. I'll kill him. He raised his cane to strike Julian, but Claire instinctively threw herself in front of him. I couldn't watch any longer. I stepped in, restraining my father-in-law and doing my best to calm them both before leading them away to continue their checkup. Later, I went back to Julian's room. When Claire saw me enter, she was still dazed, but her voice was laced with resentment. What do you want now? Are you here to tell me again that my brother is dead, and it's all my fault? Julian chimed in, pointing a finger at me. That's right, Leo. Just because Claire's parents trust you doesn't give you the right to make up such cruel lies to hurt her. I stared at Julian for a long moment. Just because you had a craving for sweet cakes in the middle of the night, you sent a message that led to the deaths of 3 people. Do you feel even a sliver of guilt? I haven't told her parents about that part yet, I said softly. How do you think they'll react when they find out? The color drained from Julian's face. He looked terrified, stammering, unable to form a coherent sentence. Seeing him like this, Claire's heart went out to him. She stood up and shoved me. How could you? Julian is just depressed. He wanted something sweet to eat. What's wrong with that? He just asked Kevin to bring some if it was convenient. Besides, who knows if Kevin is really dead or if this is all some act? She glared at me, defiant. I'm telling you, unless I see my brother's body with my own eyes, I will not believe it. A wave of sorrow washed over me for Kevin. That poor kid had spent his whole life idolizing his sister, following her every command without question. If his spirit could hear this, would he feel a pang of regret? The sister he admired so much had abandoned her family and her husband for a manipulative ex-lover, and still refused to face the truth. Fine, I said, my voice flat. I'll take you to see your brother. I drove Claire to the small hill where Kevin and his family were buried. On the way up the path, she was still skeptical, questioning if this was just another one of my tricks. But when we reached the top and she saw the family photograph on the headstone, she fell silent. She stared at it for a long time, then slowly knelt, her fingers gently tracing the image, wiping away a drop of rain as if to make sure it was really them. I watched as the blood drained from her face, her lips turning a pale, ashen gray. I stood by, finding her display of grief to be hollow and theatrical. Do you understand now? I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. Was I lying? We were married for 3 years. I thought I could at least warm your heart, but I see now I could never compete with an outsider. Since that's the case, let's get a divorce. I'll let you be with Julian. Claire's mouth opened as if to protest, but I had no desire to see her face any longer. I turned to leave, but she suddenly rushed forward, wrapping her arms around me in a desperate embrace, shaking her head violently. Listen to me, she pleaded. My feelings for Julian aren't love. I just felt sorry for him. As a doctor, how could I watch someone fall into despair right in front of me? Leo, you still love me, don't you? You can understand, can't you? The memory of her embracing another man in the same way filled me with disgust. I forcefully pried her hands off me. It's impossible, Claire, I said coldly. There's nothing left between us. The moment you abandoned Kevin, I saw you for who you truly are. You are cold, heartless, and utterly selfish. I've put up with it for 3 years, and I'm done. And don't use your profession as an excuse. Was Julian's life the only one that mattered? What about your brother's family? What about all the other patients waiting for you at the hospital while you skipped out on your shift to have fun? Weren't their lives important too? With that, I walked away, not once looking back to see the expression on her face. I heard later that it took Claire a long time to accept the reality of what had happened. She remained convinced that Julian was innocent and continued to visit him at the hospital every day, rain or shine, bringing him food and comforting him with even more devotion than before. People at the hospital whispered that she was projecting her guilt over her brother onto Julian, trying to atone for her sins. Under her care, Julian's health improved. The color returned to his pale cheeks, and his mood brightened. Just as everyone assumed they were finally going to be together, Claire made a shocking discovery. One afternoon, she arrived at the hospital an hour earlier than usual to bring him his meal. She saw him downstairs, dressed in his hospital gown, strolling casually with his arm around another woman's waist. Claire froze for a moment, then pretended she hadn't seen anything. She went upstairs, placed the thermal container on his bedside table, and waited for him to return. While she waited, she noticed a tablet computer tucked under his pillow. Curiosity got the better of her. She unlocked it and found that her own messaging account was logged in. The chat histories that Julian had deleted from her phone were all there, perfectly preserved. She saw message after message from herself to her brother, making endless demands. One day it was sweet cakes, the next it was a loan. And Kevin, ever trusting, had always complied. She also discovered Julian's secret social media account, filled with contacts of other women and explicit, lewd conversations. There was one chat with a male friend who was coaching Julian on how to fake depression to gain the sympathy of women, manipulating them into spending money on him and satisfying his every whim. Claire trembled as she read through it all. She carefully placed the tablet back under the pillow. The moment Julian walked back into the room, she grabbed the container of hot soup and hurled it at him. He screamed in pain as the scalding liquid splashed across his body. Claire, what are you doing? She followed up with a sharp slap across his face, then 2 hard kicks, before lunging at him, beating him with her fists. It was you. You killed my brother. After I moved out, Claire began sending me messages, telling me I was welcome to come home anytime. She suggested that if I was willing, we could start over, and she would be completely devoted to me. I scrolled through her long, pleading texts, my thumb stopping on the frantic messages I had sent her, begging her to come home and save her brother. The contrast was bitterly ironic. I tried to gauge her parents' opinion on the matter. Our families had been neighbors for years, practically one big family. My father-in-law sighed, choosing his words carefully. Claire was always at fault. She's been self-centered since she was a child. When she gets obsessed with something, she pursues it relentlessly and forgets everything else. Of course, we would love for you to stay, he said. But you haven't had it easy all these years. If you truly can't take it anymore, we won't force you. I nodded. Dad, Mom, from now on, just think of me as your son. Call me anytime you need anything. A month later, I insisted on taking them back to the hospital for a follow-up on their health issues. As we arrived, we saw a crowd gathered below one of the lower buildings. Someone was on the roof, threatening to jump. It was Julian. Most of the onlookers were casual, some even heckling him to get on with it. The building is only 3 stories high, one person remarked. If he really wanted to jump, he would have picked a taller one. He's been up there for 2 hours, said another. He just keeps shouting for someone to call Dr. Claire Ching. It's got to be about a relationship or a medical dispute. Soon, Claire arrived, her face a thunderous mask. She stormed up to the rooftop. She looked at Julian perched on the edge. Her eyes, once filled with pity and tenderness, were now cold as ice. What do you want? She asked flatly. Julian looked pathetic, his face a caricature of despair. A tear trickled down his cheek as the wind whipped around them. Claire, I miss the meals you used to make for me. That's what kept me going. If you keep ignoring me, I just don't have the courage to live anymore. Claire was unmoved. A scornful smile played on her lips. Is that so? Then go ahead and die. You killed my brother. It's time you paid for it. Julian was stunned. Claire, how can you say that? Because that's the kind of person you are? Don't think I don't know your little tricks. You have no intention of dying. You're just trying to manipulate me into taking care of you again. You think I didn't see the messages you sent my brother? You think I don't know about your secret account and all the women you talk to? You think faking depression is some kind of magic trick to get women to pity you? Let's see you fake this. Her voice rose to a shout. She took a sudden, menacing step towards the edge of the roof. Seeing this, Julian scrambled backward in terror, his act completely falling apart. In the end, the police intervened and brought them both down safely. On the way to the police car, Claire saw me in the crowd and became agitated. Leo, did you see that? I'm done with Julian, completely. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. I'm willing to start over with you. Please, don't leave me. All eyes turned to me, but I didn't respond. Worried about her parents' test results, I turned and walked quickly towards the main hospital building. The color drained from Claire's face. She struggled to follow me, but was held back by the police. Claire was not one to give up easily. She started bringing me lunch every day. Back when we were married, she rarely cooked. Now, she was preparing elaborate meals and delivering them to my office. My colleagues were envious, constantly telling me, "You married such a great woman, beautiful and virtuous." Whenever she heard these compliments, Claire would blush and lower her head shyly. But I would simply say, "Don't bring this anymore. I prefer the food from the cafeteria downstairs." Her smile would vanish instantly. I had never embarrassed her like that in front of others before. She would storm off, fuming. But the next day, she would be back with a different meal. One evening, it started to pour rain just as I was leaving work. As I prepared to make a dash for it, Claire appeared with an umbrella. Her eyes sparkled, as if she was waiting for my praise. "Let's go," she said softly. "I'll walk you." I froze. For a moment, I was transported back to when we first started dating, when she would look at me with that same sweet smile. But time had passed, and people had changed. "Aren't you busy with work?" I asked calmly. "Coming here every day, isn't it affecting your ability to treat patients? You should stop." With that, I pushed her umbrella aside and walked out into the rain alone. When I got home, I filed a divorce petition with the court. A summons would be sent to Claire. Since she wouldn't sign the papers, this was the only way to make her accept reality. But on the day of the court hearing, Claire was a no-show. I found out later that she had been suspended from her job over the medical malpractice incident involving Kevin's family. She had abandoned her post without leave, leading directly to the deaths of 3 people, while her own parents, despite their grief, couldn't bring themselves to ruin their daughter's career. Kevin's wife's family could not forgive. They reported her directly to the hospital director. "That was our only daughter and our only grandson," they had cried. "The Cheens can choose not to pursue this, but we cannot. Those were 2 lives." The investigation was ongoing, but Claire was facing the revocation of her medical license, meaning she might never practice again. The story was so egregious that it made the local news. Soon, she was recognized everywhere she went, followed by whispers and pointed fingers. She couldn't take it. One night, she hastily packed a bag and fled, disappearing without a trace. I didn't know where she went, and neither did her family. But sometimes, in the dead of night, my phone would ring. It would be Claire, drunk and slurring her words. "Leo," she would stammer. "Let's start over, okay? I regret believing Julian's lies. I regret not realizing how much you loved me sooner." A cold laugh escaped my lips. "Claire, stop calling me. I told you it's over. Whatever love I had for you was worn away to nothing during our years together. There's nothing left. You're just playing dumb," I continued, my voice sharp. "When you let Julian into our marriage, it wasn't just because you pitied his depression. You were hoping to rekindle your old flame with him, weren't you?" She never called again after that. A while later, I received a frantic call from Claire's parents. They told me she had been taken to the police station. They were old and didn't know what to do, begging me to go and see what was happening. When I arrived at the station, I learned that Claire had stabbed Julian. After a night of drinking away her sorrows, she had been staggering down the street when she saw a familiar sight. Julian had his arm around a young, student-like girl, whispering something melancholic to her. The girl was dabbing at his tears with a look of pity, the same scene that had played out with Claire herself. She went to a nearby fruit stand, bought a knife, and followed them. After the girl left, she called out, "Julian," and then plunged the knife into him. Onlookers screamed and immediately called the police and an ambulance. The moment she saw me, the locked-up Claire scrambled to her feet, gripping the bars of her cell. "Well?" she asked, her voice a mix of manic hope and madness. "Is that bastard Julian dead?" When I told her no, she slammed her fists against the bars in a rage. "He has a strong will to live, doesn't he? The lying, cheating scumbag. He ruined my life, and he was about to ruin someone else's." She then stared at me intently. "Leo, will you save me? If you're willing to wait for me, when I get out of prison, I'll cook for you. I'll clean for you. I'll be the best wife in the world. What do you say?" I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them and looked at her. "Claire, the only person who can save you is yourself. Not me. Even with your suspension, you had a chance to start a new life. But you chose to stab Julian. You destroyed your own second chance with your own hands. Your brother is dead, and now you're in jail. Have you even for a second thought about what will happen to your parents? Claire, you are still, to the very core, the most selfish person I have ever known." Her face fell, a retort dying on her lips. Shortly after, her parents arrived. When they heard that Julian's injuries were serious and that their daughter would be sentenced to 3 years in prison, they both collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Seeing them, it seemed as if Claire finally understood the full, devastating consequence of her actions. She began to weep uncontrollably in her cell. Later, she was transferred to prison. Before she left, she requested to see me one last time. I refused. There was no need for us to see each other then, and there would be no need in the future. Goodbye, Claire.